I went to meet with him, and one thing led to the other, and that was the beginning of probably the most exciting time of my life. When you come from that part of the world that I had come from, you are not used to taking care of yourself on a day-to-day basis. Those extra activities that I had to do to sustain myself was very tough. I was like, I can't do this. So those probably were the few occasions when I thought to myself, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Because you're young at that age as well, you don't really know how the future is going to turn out. I think it's taken a complete sort of turn of events.
Anshu, welcome to Getting There with Amy Claire.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So, for the listeners / viewers, can you please tell me a bit about yourself?
Um, my name is Anshu. I'm a chef. I was born in Nairobi, in Kenya. I lived all my life in Delhi, in India, and I worked all my life in London.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really good introduction. It sounded very interviewy. I do apologize. I just realized that. I was like, tell me about yourself. That's really, really nice, especially the fact that, I mean, for the listeners and viewers, I actually don't know you. I came in here one time with my sister, and
Yes.
yeah, because she's very, very fond of your ice cream. And yeah, I mean, we just started kind of just casually talking, didn't we? And so yeah, I always try to tell the viewers how I know the person. But in this case, I don't know a lot about you, so I had no idea even about that intro. Your first event. So you've said you were born in Nairobi. You grew up in Delhi, is that
Yeah.
right? And then, okay, so you've then moved to the UK. What age were you when you moved to the UK? Because this is your first event.
Yeah. I was 19.
19.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you just give me a bit of context in terms of that move, that transition of culture? What was your situation with language? Just give me a little bit of a background on that.
Yeah. I mean, I moved to the UK to study. It was obviously a big shock as well for myself. I wasn't really used to the lifestyle in the UK, as I've always lived in Delhi my entire life. It took me a little bit of time to settle in, but once I was settled in, really enjoyed.
What was your motivation to move to the UK?
Um, I wasn't the most academic student whilst I was in the school.
Okay.
I must say, and I always wanted to pursue my career in hospitality. Um, Back in those times, hospitality was something that wasn't really, it was almost frowned upon. It wasn't really a kind of industry that you would go to or would be your first option to go to. And for that reason, I wanted to get away from those thoughts, especially in India as well, when people can be a little bit backward thinking,
Okay.
and just come to the UK and have a fresh start.
How old were you when you moved to India?
Sorry.
How old were you when you moved to India?
I was just 4 years old.
4.
Yeah. So I actually don't remember any part of me living in Kenya at all.
Okay.
I moved to Delhi because the schools in Kenya weren't the best. So my parents, I was born over there, so that my parents decided to move back to Delhi to put me into schools in Delhi.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said that you kind of felt this desire to go into hospitality, right? But that wasn't deemed the most, was it admirable, or you said it was slightly frowned upon? Can you elaborate on that in terms of that mindset you had and what kind of barriers you're facing? I'm just curious in terms of why hospitality was seen as something that you shouldn't really get into.
Yeah. I mean, it's very typical for a child to dream of becoming a doctor or an engineer or a pilot or one of those streamline work in one of those streamline industries, and hospitality was something that would always be like on the back burner. and it's just the culture at the time. You know, times have definitely moved on now.
Mm.
Things are very different now. Hospitality now is very different to what it was 20, 30 years ago. I think it's taken a complete sort of turn of events as to what it is, what it offers, what opportunity it brings. It wasn't the case back in the day.
So
Yeah.
you've now decided to, right, I'm going to go to the UK.
Yeah.
Why the UK?
Why the UK?
Yeah, specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the most easy decision.
Mm-hmm.
Especially being in Delhi as well, your options are almost quite limited.
Okay.
But I was very lucky to get into a university that was based in the UK, and because of that, I came to the UK. Um, I would have considered going to the US as well, but the options were literally US and or UK, because those were the biggest sort of places to go to if you wanted to pursue your career in hospitality. And for the reason that I was able to get into this university in the UK, I took that option.
Okay, very
Yeah.
good. How was university life in the UK then?
It was good. It was interesting. Obviously, very different to my life that I had back at home. But as I said, it took me a little bit of time to get used to it. I got used to it, and after that, it was all fun and games. I spent a lot of time working while I was in the university. So it wasn't just a case of me going to university and coming back home, because I was also supporting my lifestyle over here whilst paying my tuition fees in the university by myself. So it was a bit draining at times, but a lot of fun.
Was it culinary arts you were studying?
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah. So I was studying hospitality management.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I did my bachelor's in hospitality management, and because it wasn't the first choice that I should have gone for according to people back home. So for that reason, I also had to do Bachelor of Commerce. So I studied economics and maths from a long distance university that was based in Delhi. So I had to, on my holidays, go back to Delhi to give exams and then come back. So I was almost doing 2 degrees whilst working full time and paying for my tuition and supporting my lifestyle and paying my rent. So that was a little bit tough, but enjoyable at the same time.
Sounds like you worked hard.
Yeah.
In terms of outside experience, did you get, obviously you were working a lot, did you manage to have time to adapt to the UK culture and even like things to do here, activities and stuff like that? Because where in the UK, sorry, did you move to?
London.
It was London. Did you manage to immerse yourself into that kind of opportunity, or was it your lifestyle was so busy that was genuinely just work and kind of coursework?
No, I must say I immersed myself completely. Thoroughly enjoyed. One good thing about working in hospitality is that you get to work with people from all different backgrounds and various parts of the world. So that was very exciting. I had never done that before in my life. So that was new for me to make friends, who are from different parts of the world. Very good. I spend a lot of time with my work colleagues, going out, going out to restaurants, eating, drinking, having fun, and all the things that one would do whilst they are, in that sort of 1920s, 20s sort of age.
Was there anything whilst you were, going through that period of your life where you were thinking, I've made a mistake?
In the beginning, yes.
Really?
In the beginning, yes. As I said, it took me a few months to settle to this lifestyle over here, and it's because when you come from that part of the world that I had come from, you are not used to taking care of yourself on a day-to-day basis. So, for example, I wasn't used to washing my own clothes. I wasn't used to cleaning my own house. I wasn't used to cooking for myself. So, just working and studying was obviously one part of it, but those extra activities that I had to do to sustain myself was very tough. But as I said, I got used to it, and it was all good after that.
Okay, so it sounded it was like less of a kind of cultural barrier, but more of an independence
Yes.
kind of immersement.
Yeah.
That's even a word.
Yeah. I mean, after 6 months, I was ready to go back to Delhi.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, I can't do this. It's too tough.
Just juggling it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people say that when they first move. Some are more independent than others, but I do know a fair few people. It does depend. I think boys probably are, they have a tendency for their mother to mother them more. I've noticed that, but that's obviously not all the time. And I don't know what the situation is with you, but it is funny when I talk to people about when they first moved out, and depending on what stage of their life that was. But it is a shock, right? Because this is adulting now. So yeah, that's super interesting. So in terms of your course, you managed to finish that. Um, would you say the hardest thing was just the juggling, or in terms of the course itself, did you ever question, knowing that what the thoughts were back at home, that the course was the wrong thing for you, hospitality, or was it kind of, did you always feel that, no, I know I want to be a chef or somewhat in hospitality, so you knew the industry was right? Did you ever question that?
No, I never questioned that.
Really?
I always knew I wanted to be a chef.
Nice.
I was always intrigued around food. I've always been a big foodie, even at a very young age as well. My family had always, hosted a lot. There was always food was a part of every sort of occasion, doesn't matter what you celebrate. And cooking was one of my passions, and also because I wasn't really good at anything else.
Um, so in terms of your next event, this transition now, so you've done your hospitality degree, kind of got, was it like a food license or whichever you want to, you met, was it Jean Georges?
Yep.
And you became a part of the Maybourne group.
Yep.
So for those listeners and viewers, there would probably be quite a few that won't know either Jean Georges or that group. Can you first explain what that group was, how you managed to get involved with it, and why you got involved with it?
Yeah. John George is one of the greatest chefs in the world right now, as we speak. He has restaurants and hospitality interests all over the world. Um, I was very fortunate that I was recommended to him through one of our mutual friends, and I had no idea about it. I got a phone call one day from this gentleman, my good friend now. His name is Dan. I got a phone call from Dan to say that John Judge would like to meet you. Are you free? And at the time, I was a little bit puzzled. So I was like, is that the John Joe that I'm thinking? Is that the right John Joe? Is that a different John Joe? The conversation was very brief. Um, but then, no, I went to meet with him, and one thing led to the other. And that was the beginning of probably the most exciting time of my life.
Okay, so that's a big deal.
Yeah.
In terms of what that meant, so it was clearly a vital time in your career. Can you elaborate in terms of what actually happened? Also, the Maybourne group. Just go into that a bit more. I'm really curious to know.
Yeah. So Maybourne Group is one of the best hotel management companies in the world. They own and manage hotels like obviously the Connaught, the Claridge's, the Berkeley. So these are the three most iconic hotels in London. And then they have a few other hotels in France and in US as well. It's a very small group, 5 hotels, maybe 6. That's it. But those 5, 6 hotels are one of the best hotels in the world. Doesn't matter where they are. So when the opportunity came along to be a part of the Maybourne group, it was obviously super exciting.
Did you have like, because it sounds like right, you finished your course and then this kind of happened. I'm interested in that transition. So what kind of work experience did you do before the whole Jean Georges kind of period in your life? Because there could be people listening to this, for example, in the hospitality industry going, hang on a second, I had to work from the ground up in terms of, and maybe you got a stroke of luck. I'm curious, did that actually just happen? You literally graduated and boom, straight in there.
No.
Okay.
It was a journey of 20 years.
20 years.
20 years.
So
Yeah,
this is where I want to get to.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that time in terms of the getting to that stage where Jean-Georges could approach you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a journey for 20 years. I had worked in various different restaurants, worked for various different chefs, worked in various different hotels, open restaurants, done loads of hospitality stuff, so to speak, in the UK and some around the world as well. And it was because of the credibility that I was, I was quite fortunate to be able to build that I got that phone call, and as I said, that was the turn of events.
Wow. Okay. So, in terms of that long 20-year journey, again, did you ever question like your future in terms of this career, or how kind of persistent were you? Because I think anyone in any industry, right, there's going to be struggles. So, what was the kind of point where you felt most doubtful, and what was the point where you felt most excited in that 20 years?
I mean, working as a chef is very hard. You do very long hours. You don't earn the most amazing salaries. You're always in a very stressful environment. There is, it's always hot around you, and not just the temperature. There's people around you who tend to, become a bit angry as well because of the conditions and because of the situations and the stress that they are exposed to every single day of their life. So that was definitely very tough to manage. I I especially remember one of the examples. I used to work at a restaurant called Sketch in central London for a chef called Pierre Gagne. And it is now a 3 Michelin star restaurant. At the time, it was 2 Michelin stars. And we were working from 10 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock in the morning, 6 days a week, every single week. So you can imagine. On a Monday, we would go into work later because the restaurant was closed for lunch. It would only open for dinner on a Monday. So we would be off after Saturday night dinner service at 1 o'clock. You're off. The restaurant was closed on Sundays. You Sunday you're off, and then Monday you're back to work again. So I remember finishing work on Saturday night at 1 a.m., going out partying, going back home at 4 o'clock in the morning, literally sleeping the whole of Sunday day, the whole night because I was so tired from the week, waking up Monday, going back to work. That was just my life.
So you went out partying?
Yeah.
Okay, so work hard, play hard.
Yep.
Yeah, your body must have been absolutely shattered.
Yeah, that's why I literally would sleep for like 24 hours straight. And you needed that to get yourself ready for the next week,
Yeah.
so to speak. But also because you work so hard all week, you can't wait for that 1 a.m. on Saturday to finish work and just go out and have a few drinks and meet with friends and socialize and see other people, and be able to have a tiny bit of life. So that was tough, but taught me a tremendous amount. The skills that I gained were invaluable. So that's just one example. So those probably were the few occasions when I thought to myself, "Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life?" Because you're young at that age as well, you don't really know how the future is going to turn out. But you carry on. You've chosen a path. You have to go full throttle on that path if you want to achieve something, if you want to become somebody, if you want to be successful in any way whatsoever. You have to put the work into it.
What was your drive? Because a lot of people would give up, and I actually understand that as well, right? Some people just go, "This is too much." What was your underlying motivation? That voice in your head that was like, I'm not going to quit this.
I mean, primarily because I didn't really have any other options. I'll
Okay.
be completely honest. If I'd already spent quite a few years, training to be a chef, if it wasn't for this, then I probably had to choose another industry and start all over again. So that was one factor. And but I think the biggest factor was that I always wanted to pursue a dream of opening my own restaurants, opening my own hospitality businesses, becoming a chef that can be respected to a certain extent. Um, so in order for me to achieve those goals, it was important for me to go through those motions. And any successful chef that you speak to has is probably going to say the same thing, that he's probably had a very tough sort of early years whilst he was being trained, and then now obviously they are successful to do what they do.
Your childhood.
Yeah.
What contribution do you think that dynamic, which I'm unsure of, by the way, in terms of siblings, how your parents were, how strict they were, etc., what aspect of your childhood do you think contributed to this drive to kind of pursue this quite fast-paced lifestyle and quite intense lifestyle?
Um, it's me and my brother in my family.
Okay.
And my brother was the one who was always the intelligent one. He was the one who was academically very strong. And I was always the one who was not very good at studies, not very good at school. Won't necessarily get the best grades in school as well. So it was always a case of me, uh, you know, being able to prove myself at some stage in my life that I'm not completely useless, that I can still, whilst not being academically sound, still be able to build a career for myself.
Is he older or younger?
He's younger.
He's younger.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're the eldest.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think from people I've spoken to who are the eldest, they feel like there's a different type of pressure. Maybe I don't know if you've got this, but almost that you kind of have to lead the way a little bit. Did you ever find that you're like you've got a younger brother looking up to you, or maybe you didn't find that? I'm just curious that dynamic between you and your sibling and how it's kind of contributed.
No, I never really felt that. I
Okay,
would
that's
say,
actually nice.
and it's probably because I left house at a very young age. He still lives with family, and when I left, he was still quite young. He was still in school, um, so it never really got to a point whereby I had to sort of lead the way. And as I said, he's quite good at what he does, so he didn't really need any guidance.
Yeah. I mean, I actually quite like delving into people's childhoods because it's interesting. It's your story. It's how you're developed, your brains, your surroundings, your values, your attitudes, right? So we can now jump back because I'm really curious. You've obviously went through a lot of kind of the nitty gritty experience. Then it wasn't as simply as you came out of this kind of graduate position and then straight into John George's arms. Even so, okay, you now if we jump back or jump forward, I should say, you got this opportunity of a lifetime. You're now part of the Maybourne group. That wasn't where you're working 6 days, right?
No.
No. Okay. But you had a very good experience from that.
Yeah. So that was just one of the places that I worked. I was quite fortunate to be able to work with some of the other greatest chefs as well.
Yeah.
But the experience that I had working with John George was just completely stood out. That's the reason I mentioned.
Okay.
Not to say that the other experiences were not good.
Oh no, 100%.
Yeah,
Everything, even if it feels like positive or negative in terms of the stresses or whichever, right? It's still learning experiences, right? No, of course. Jean Georges is a huge character in terms of a figure, I should say, but probably a huge character as well in the culinary arts. So tell me about your time with him and how that kind of impacted your decision. Because for the viewers and listeners, we're currently in your cafe, so gelato, that kind of transition. Tell me about that Jean-Georges kind of period of your life and how that influenced where you are now?
Um, I think the influence mainly came from the kind of the character John George is. You know, I have never met a chef of that caliber and of that stature who is so humble, so jolly. You know, you can always have a laugh with JG.
JG, shout out
JG,
JG.
yeah, and that was very inspiring.
Yeah.
It was really interesting to see how he would manage and handle his empire, you know, around the world. You know, it's a one man show. His name is on every single door of every single restaurant and hospitality business that he has around the world. He probably spends half of his life on an airplane and traveling from one place to the other. So I can only imagine how stressful that might be. Um, so it was very inspiring to see how he would manage all of those situations, and you know, you would never see him in a bad mood. You would never see him upset. You would never see him, you know, worried in any way whatsoever, which I think is a key.
That composure.
Which I think is a key. So yeah, it was very inspiring from those perspectives.
Tell me about your kind of your highlighted experiences with the Maybourne group.
So before I joined the Connaught as an executive chef. So Gordon Ramsay was you know, the chef at the Connaught with Angela Hartnett for 8 years, and after that, Connaught wanted to go through a transition period, and then it was me.
So am I getting this right where you were Gordon Ramsay's replacement chef?
I was a replacement for Angela Hartnett.
So you worked with Gordon Ramsay?
No, I replaced. So Gordon Ramsay and Angela Hartnett were the chefs at the Connaught
Yeah.
For about 8 years. Then they left.
Yeah.
Then there was a break while the company was deciding what to do next. And that is when they contacted John George.
Ah.
And that is when I was contacted. So I was then the exec chef of the Connaught, and then John George was a part of our journey as well, because we opened a restaurant or two with John George. That's how I got to work with him.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and during that period, the hotel went through a complete transformation, whereby we opened, you know, numerous F&B outlets, some of the most successful F&B outlets in London right now, and as I said, that journey was instrumental to the man that I am now. The experience that it gave me was fantastic, you know, next to none.
What would be your advice for young people who kind of want to become chef or pursue some sort of similar career that are kind of struggling at the moment?
My advice would be to go and work and get trained in the best restaurants. So you know, I for example, I didn't just stick to one place. I worked, as I mentioned, at the Sketch with Pierre Garnier. I worked with Raymond Blanc in Le Manoir Côte Saison. I worked with Eric Frechon, who has a three Michelin star restaurant in Paris. We opened the Lanesborough together with him. So you know, it's very important for young chefs to gain that experience and put in the work in order to train themselves, and it's that training, it's that journey that hopefully is going to bring them to a point whereby they can then, you know, depending on what they want, achieve stars, or you know, go on to do other things, open their own restaurants, become consultants, or whatever it is that they want to do. But that journey of being trained and working in the best places is crucial.
In terms of getting to those positions, though, if they're stuck in that kind of, those entry points. How did you find that it pushed you through? And what kind of advice did you have at those positions? Because I know for some people that is the toughest bit, even though you could argue it's more intense for sure at the top, but sometimes that uncertainty, right? That constant thought of, I have so far to go. Maybe you just come out of college or university or whichever.
It is. It's a long journey. It's not the industry where success comes to you easily. It's not an industry where you can make it happen fairly quickly. Um, doesn't matter how lucky you are. It's very competitive. It's very high pressured. So things don't necessarily come easy in hospitality. As you probably hear that loads of restaurants struggle. London is the food capital of the world right now. I think 100%. Um, it used to be New York, but I think now London has the best food as compared to anywhere in the world. So I think they should be very proud of the fact that these guys are in London right now, and they have the opportunity to be able to be a part of this exciting culture, this food culture, this restaurant culture, this hospitality culture that is in London right now, and embrace it. And I think it comes down to decision making as well. It's very important to make the right decisions, to choose the right places, to to work and gain experience in order to achieve that end goal. you know if they know what they want to do in 10, 20 years time, every step that they take needs to be geared towards achieving that end goal. Otherwise it's pointless.
Yeah, no, that's really, really it's true. It's real. It needs to be heard. How long did you spend with the Maybourne group, and that kind of then transition into opening your own place there?
I spent about 6 years with the Maybourne group, and it was it was very helpful because that gave me the inspiration and the confidence more than anything else, towards the end of that sort of journey. um, and as I said, I always had a dream of having my own businesses, my own restaurants, and that almost gave me the accreditation that that now is the time to take that leap. you know Leave your job, take that risk. So yeah.
I find that inspiring because a lot of people won't take that risk. And
Yeah.
I do understand their perspective as well, because everyone values different things. This is my mind speaking, but how long has this been open now, this place?
11 weeks.
11 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very new.
Very new. By the time this is launched, it'll probably be open a bit longer, but still very new.
Yeah.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank
It
you.
is very beautiful. My sister is the number one fan. I think
Yeah.
she should get some sort of badge saying number one fan. She's brought every sibling, I think, here now.
Oh, that's fantastic. So nice to hear that.
Your final event, which is something that is obviously very, very personal, but has had a huge impact. Your father. Tell me about him and how his passing kind of contributed to perhaps the man you are, but not even just his passing, maybe him as a whole. Tell me about him.
My dad was, he was, he was a great guy. He loved enjoying life. Um, he would enjoy his life, he would enjoy every moment of his life if he had the opportunity to. He would not miss a chance to get out, eat some good food, meet some friends, or enjoy life in any way whatsoever, which was really cool. Um, he would he was very kind. He had a really big heart. Everybody could rely upon him for help. If anybody needed something, if they needed some advice, if they needed some help, if they needed anything whatsoever, They knew that they could always call him, and if he could be of some assistance, he would help, or make it happen in one way or the other.
He sounded like a kind of crucial kind of inspirational figure in your life as well.
Yeah,
Then,
yeah. So almost taught me how to be reliable.
okay, which
You
is
know,
fundamental
yeah, it's very important, I think.
for men. Being that kind of feeling of being reliable, I think, is super important. I mean, you could argue it for every human being, right? But like, I think for men to feel reliable, there's a sense of purpose within that. So to have that strong figure is, I think, it's fundamental. Um, in terms of you, for your third event, you said specifically your father's passing. How did that make you evaluate things, your position in your own life, how the effect he had on you? Tell me about that.
The biggest thing that came out of that event was it's a very common phrase: life is too short. Life is too short, and you never know when it ends. Um, I don't mean to put a downer, but that was almost a wake up call for myself to think that if I want to do something in my life, I need to just do it like now. So hence it sort of helped me to expedite this journey that I'm on right now, um, where I've almost left what I've done all my life, even though I'm still cooking. But being an entrepreneur and trying and having a go at entrepreneurship, it's a new challenge. It's very different. I've always worked in environments where the financial situation has been very, very strong. Money is no object. You know, you can do what you want, you can buy what you want. I would buy the most expensive truffle, the most expensive caviar, you name it. I would buy it, I will use it, I will serve it, I will eat it. It's not the case anymore. So it's very different. But it coming back to your question, it almost expedited me, in my senses, in my brain as well, to tell me that I need to get on it. Just get it done.
Would you say that time in your life when your father passed was fundamental then in you opening up Gelato Kitchen?
Yes, it was fundamental in me taking the leap. It was fundamental in me to go on this journey where I want to open restaurants of my own. Not necessarily Gelato Kitchen. Gelato Kitchen is just one of the concepts that I want to do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Exciting.
yeah. But it definitely helped me to get on it, faster.
Why gelato?
Um, I personally believe, and I can be completely wrong, as I am on many occasions. I see a gap in the market. So I'm not sure if you heard of a guy called Cedric Grolet. Cedric Grolet is probably one of the best pastry chefs in the world. Um, and we opened the patisserie with him at the Maybourne Group at the Berkeley Hotel. It's still open. This was just a few years ago. So Cedric Grolet is the king of patisserie right now as we speak. And I don't think there is a Cedric Grolet in the gelato world.
Are you going to become Cedric Grolet of the
I
gelato
don't.
world?
I don't think I will ever be able to become Cedric Grolet of the gelato world, because I don't just want to do gelato all my life. But there's definitely a gap in the market whereby gelato has not been executed to that level of perfection, to that level of Michelin standard, to that level of detail, to that level where it's almost more fun, being creative. I'm not sure whether you're aware of what we do, but we do various different things. So when we opened, it was Halloween. We did a pumpkin. We did gelato in the shape of a pumpkin, and people loved that. Just little things like that. It's so that has not been done yet. So that's what we're trying to do.
Gelato meets art in some respects, right?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way of saying it.
Yeah. That's really exciting.
Gelato has not met art yet.
Okay, and
Yeah.
you're building that bridge, perhaps.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Anshu, now I'm just going to ask you all things gelato. What is the most abstract, crazy flavor of gelato that you have created?
Truffle.
Truffle. Okay, what inspired this and how did it turn out?
It turned out fantastic. It's actually a classic flavor. It's called Frio de Latte, and what we do is we finish it with some fresh winter truffle, which is amazing at this time of the year.
If you could create any flavor in the world, but perhaps ingredients could be an issue or whichever, what would it be if you had access to any ingredient? What would be the dream flavor?
The dream flavor would be that's a very interesting question. I need to think about that a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of the best ice cream or gelato that you've tried that you haven't created, where was that and what was it?
It was actually in Florence,
Classic.
in this amazing gelateria that we visited, and it was just absolutely divine. It was an artichoke gelato.
Artichoke.
Artichoke, yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep.
Have you had any inspiration about my question before?
I think what can be really interesting would be something to do with burnt butter.
Burnt butter.
Burnt butter, yeah.
Ooh.
It's called branoise.
Oh.
I think that can be quite interesting. I'm always fans of things which are burned or charred or charcoaled or cooked on fire, and I think that sort of relates to or as close as it can get to that. I would love to incorporate maybe some activated charcoal into it as well.
Nice.
I think that would work really well. I think that'll be something that I might try.
From your experience as a chef, what was the hardest ingredient to get in the world?
The hardest ingredient to get in the world,
Yeah.
being in London, is uni.
Uni.
Uni, yeah.
Anshu, the question I've asked all my guests this season is, I want you to picture yourself in 10 years' time. He just walks through the door now and he takes a seat. What do you think he'd say to you?
I think, interesting question.
Yeah.
I think he will say to me, carry on, do what you're doing, follow your dreams, work hard in order to achieve what you want to achieve. And I think most importantly, don't be scared. Don't be scared to take risks.
Nice. So I thank you very much for coming on, getting everything me clear.
Thank
I
you.
hope you've had fun.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.